Andy Brassell or Brassell? No one really knows until we ask that question now. Andy, hello, good evening to you.
Hello, fellas. How are you?
Yeah, we're good. We're very well. Let's start with that one. Is it, because we were discussing this in our meeting earlier on, is it Brassell or Brassell?
It's open to interpretation. I will let you try and choose the correct one.
I'll just call you Andy, it'll be easier. Listen, lots to talk to you about with regards to tonight's football. But before I... sorry, there's an awful feedback. I don't know if you can... have you got a volume control at your end? Because I'm hearing us.
Really? Okay, I'll try and fix that.
Okay, while you do that, I'll ask the question. Lionel Messi has been rumoured to return to Barcelona. I know that's been doing the rounds for some time, but it seems to be gathering a bit of pace, that one. Any news on that?
Yeah, the reason it's gathering pace is because it's his contractual situation. We know he can opt out of his PSG deal at the end of this season. And the situation has changed. Of course, he wanted to stay at Barcelona. They didn't massively want to let him go in the first place, but they weren't able to afford to keep him. Now, Xavi has been Team Messi from the year dot, and from the moment he got the job. So it was clear that if Barcelona got themselves on at least a passable sort of financial situation, and he was able to sort of improve the team and give Messi a project that he would believe in, they would try and get him back. They are trying to get him back. So really, PSG are feeling a little twitchy at the moment. You know, I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world if he left them at the end of the season, but they'd certainly like it to be on their terms, because you know what it's like with the biggest clubs in the world. It's not just about making the right sporting decision. It's about not losing face.
Listen, I would love to see Messi back. It just feels like home Barcelona, because he is their greatest ever player. But with Barcelona and their financial situation, I mean, I don't know how they're bending financial fair play. I know they're selling off certain parts of their future. But would this not be causing them more problems? Because I'm guessing Messi's not going to go back there for free.
Well, I think it's an interesting point, Darren, because the thing that everyone's always overlooked a little bit with Messi, at least outside Spain, is the fact that he loves money. And he has always loved money. And that's fine. You know, that's fine that he wants to be rewarded for his brilliance. But how he would feel about playing for next to nothing, which is possible now. It's not possible before, because when you're renewing a contract, you can't sign it for less than 50% of the previous amount to sort of safeguard players. It's a players' union rule in Spain. So when people suggested, if Messi really cared, he could play for nothing, he legally couldn't have played for nothing. Now he's gone and is going back. That's different. You know, he could be playing for the Dani Alves minimum that he did when he went back to Barcelona. Whether Messi would be willing to do that, obviously from not just a sporting perspective, but from a family perspective, it's his home. His wife and children didn't really want to leave. Maybe that's something that could recommend it to him. I want to throw something else out there. I don't think it's the best sporting choice for Barcelona, to be honest. I know in terms of narrative and in terms of commercial interest and all that sort of stuff, that would be great. Barcelona play with great tempo now. Can he still play with great tempo? I'm not convinced he can. He's playing in a slightly more withdrawn role. I wonder if we're heading towards the sort of Cristiano Ronaldo situation with him, where you think, you know, he's been one of the greatest, if not the greatest. Is it a point now where he shouldn't really be playing for an elite team? I think it's a discussion to be had.
Wow. Do you really? You honestly feel like that? That maybe he's past his sell-by date?
Well, that's a different way of putting it. You know, he's got value in football. There's no doubt about that. And he started this season pretty well. The reason he started this season pretty well compared to last season is A, obviously there's not been the emotional upheaval. B, he's actually done a pre-season. And I think the fact that Ronaldo hasn't done a full pre-season at his age is really telling in his form. You looked at Portugal trying to get him into physical nick in the last international window, and really it should be the club doing that, not the country, but that's where he is. I just think it's really interesting to see where Messi's going to be after this World Cup.
Okay.
And like I said, Barcelona play with incredible tempo. The link between Rafinha and Lewandowski is amazing. I don't really see why you'd want to muddy the waters by bringing someone else into that.
We'll talk Barcelona in just a moment, staying with them because they're in action against Inter. I'll get your view on that in a sec. But there are games happening at the moment. Bayern Munich, they're half-time, they're 3-0 up. But in the other game, Marseille, I don't know if you'll watch it, they were 1-0 down in the first minute. Less than half an hour later, they were 3-1 up against Sporting. And Sporting's goalkeeper's been sent off. A barking game there.
Yeah, it is, and it's all a bit late as well because Sporting were late to the stadium, which, considering there are no actual fans in the stadium, is quite an achievement. But Marseille traffic is legendary. On the quietest of days, it has to be said. It once took me 3.5 hours to get from the city centre to the stadium, which is about 4 kilometres. So wow. it can happen. But yeah, it's one of those ones where when Antonio Adan, formerly of Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid, of course, in goal for Sporting, got sent off, he'd had such a bad first half that you thought when he got the red card and he came out trying to stop Nuno Tavares, of course, who's on loan from Arsenal, handled the ball away from him outside the area. And you think, actually, he's probably done him a favour because he made such a mess of the first 2 goals. And now you have Franco Israel, who's probably the better goalkeeper, has come on, and he made an incredible blunder for the 3rd goal. So I don't know, just stick one of the outfield players in, I reckon.
and going back to Barcelona, they face Inter Milan tonight. We know Barcelona have been in fantastic form. I think the last game they lost was against Bayern. But how difficult a game do you think this will be for them, down to Inter?
I think really the question marks are over Inter, really, Darren, rather than over Barcelona, because as you say, Barcelona have been an incredible nick so far this season. I always wondered if they could get anywhere in the Champions League because of their defence. Now, if you look at them in La Liga so far, not only are they top, they've conceded 1 goal so far. It's pretty amazing. Part of that is not just the defence, it's Marc-Andre ter Stegen, as Dermot Corrigan pointed out in an article earlier today. He's been absolutely on his best form at the moment. You know, you look at some of the countries in the World Cup, how they're struggling with goalkeepers. Germany have Neuer, they have ter Stegen, and they have Kevin Trapp, who'll be facing Tottenham later. You know, those are 3 goalkeepers who would deserve to play for any country, really. They've got a few injuries in defence at the moment, Barcelona as well. Eric Garcia is going to start, and I'm never 100% sold on him. But the 2 big absences for Inter, of course, Romelu Lukaku and Marcelo Brozovic, who Antonio Conte was having a little sniff to try and bring to Tottenham at the end of last season before he signed his new contract. And from what I gather, interest in big clubs in Brozovic, knowing the financial problems that Inter have, are not entirely dead. Inter have always fallen short in the Champions League since they won it in 2010, and I think the pressure is all on them this evening.
Will the pressure all be on Spurs tonight? They travel to Eintracht Frankfurt. That one's live on talkSPORT. What can we expect in that one, And?
An incredible atmosphere for those travelling Tottenham fans, that's for sure. I mean, I think the travelling Chelsea and West Ham supporters who've been to their games over the last couple of years could tell you that. It's absolutely deafening on a European night at Deutsche Bank Park. Also, Eintracht are in really good nick at the moment. I think that's something you have to underline because they beat Union Berlin, who are top at the weekend, and comfortably as well. They were excellent. The interesting thing is we've sort of seen the rebirth of Mario Götze this season. He's not going to be fit to play in this game, which is a bit of a blow because the link between him and Randal Kolo Muani, who's just come over from Nantes, and who, if he plays like he's been playing for Eintracht Frankfurt so far this season in the rest of the Champions League, a Premier League club will take him. Eintracht Frankfurt will not be able to keep him. You look at Jesper Lindstrom, who scored that brilliant solo goal when they won at Marseille, very comfortably actually in the last game. There's a lot going on for Tottenham, but I think Antonio Conte kind of had that in his mind. You know, but people criticised him for his negative substitutions in the back end of that derby. But I think you've got to be realistic. The fact they're playing so many games at the moment, they were 3-1 down and down to 10 men against a really good team in Arsenal. I think something has to give somewhere, and it was Antonio Conte, to an extent, paying his due respect to Frankfurt, who he said they're one of the best teams in Germany in his press conference yesterday.
Do you know, Andy, I was looking earlier and you said about Mario Götze. I didn't realise he's only 30.
Yeah.
I feel like he's been around for the longest time.
Well, that's it. I mean, he made his debut for Dortmund at 16, Darren, and he's been through it all. You know, you go back 4 years or so, and his career could have been over. He had this rare metabolic disorder, which made it really hard for him to muscle up and to shift weight as well, to shift fat. So that's really affected his explosiveness. I think the indication of his intelligence, because he's had to put up with so much pressure, which he's found mentally quite difficult since scoring the winning goal in the 2014 World Cup final. That's right, the winning goal in the 2014 World Cup final. And, you know, he's such a great player. I think sometimes he's got such ability, people think he's, you know, underachieved, really. But, I think he's in a good place now. He knows who he is. He knows what he is. He's at a club which is a big club, but where he feels comfortable. It's maybe slightly below elite level. And it's a real shame. Won't get to see him tonight. But, at Tottenham in a couple of weeks, right? Next week.
And
it's also quick.
Next week. Yeah. Andy, listen, thank you for coming on. I think you've confirmed that no one in the world knows more about European football than you. Before I let you go, though, you've got a new book coming out. Is that right?
Yeah, I do. It's called Football Murals. You don't have to be interested in my writing. It's got loads of beautiful pictures in. I describe some of the characters in there. Obviously, it's got Ronaldo, Messi, Zlatan, Francesco Totti, but we also talk about some of the big themes in football. You need to have a copy in your hands, really. So, go and get it. It's out next week. Get it for Christmas.
Can't wait. Andy texted me this morning saying, do you want one? I was like, if it's free, of course I want one.
I must have missed that.
Can't wait for that. Can you send one for me, one for Benny? Is that all right? And we'll both put it on social media for you.
Of course. My pleasure.
Okay. You're a superstar, and thanks so much
Cheers,
for coming
Andy.
on.
Cheers. Take care.
There you go, the wonderful Andy Brassell.
talkSPORT Drive with Andy Goldstein. Monday to Friday afternoon from 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.